a massive game, massive rivalry in front of a massive crowd, and we have a massive performance from Leinster. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. The official attendance for this one was 80,000 and I think about 400 people. So new record for the URC, and the tickets sold so quickly as well. It just shows people are talking about rugby's in a bad place, but it shows what you can do. This didn't come overnight either. Munster have always been like a massive team, but Leinster have built it up over years and years, and I think they're a good model really for other clubs to look at in terms of, obviously success helps, but Leinster had like a star-studded team back when I used to go to games in Donnybrook, and it was in front of maybe a couple of thousand people that they're playing then, and now that they're in front of 80,000, obviously Munster are always a big draw anyway. Probably about, I'd say, 30% of that crowd were from Munster too. But it just shows what rugby can be. Once it kind of gets bedded in a little bit more, and we build up the other teams in the URC and the other provinces in Ireland as well. Stuff like this can be kind of a regular thing, rather than a one-off thing. But it's amazing for the fourth round of the URC. When you think about the other big games, the last big game, obviously these two played at Croke Park, was it 2009 semi-final, or I think that was it, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it. Where it was, who was it? O'Driscoll intercepted from O'Gara and then went under the post to basically seal the game. But Munster were hoping for a better result than that today. But anyway, let's get back to this game. So Munster on the attack, kind of early on, they get a penalty from the kickoff. Leinster taking the man out in the air, then a decent line out from them. Maul makes good meters before they then spread it. And I would have said there was a possible knock-on, out wide from them. And then eventually, not too long after anyway, the ball gets turned over. So it wasn't material. And in fairness as well, shortly after, just after the ball gets turned over, there was a very dubious mark from Keenan that, for my eyes, we didn't really see a replay, I don't think, but looked like he was outside the 22 when he called the mark. So kind of, evened itself out anyway there. Very physical from both sides all through the game, but, they started the way they meant to go on, big hits going in and nobody giving, any quarter at all in it. Leinster then get a penalty for holding on and they go up the line into 22. They spread it from that line out. Furlong, great strong carry from him. Well taken then by Snyman. Frawley goes close. Then Gibson Park gets it out wide with that skip pass out to Lowe, and he scores in the corner. If you've seen Gibson Park give that pass so many times before, right in front of everyone, zips it and just makes it so hard for the defence. And then Lowe's just out in space there, easy score for him. Frawley converts from the touchline. Thought it was a very good kick, 7 points to 0. I'm glad he got more time as well at 10 today than he did. Last time he had to switch after 30 minutes when he was in the 10 shirt to start. Munster then attacking line out. James Ryan though gets up to steal very cleanly as well with that. It wasn't like a tap or whatever. He just took the ball. Scannell then off for an HIA, and Barron has had a tough first throw, I felt, in that one. And Leinster did very well against the Munster line out, and they were talking about Snyman obviously knowing a lot of their kind of the way they set up for lineouts, etc. Leinster then go up the other end. Turner does well out wide. I think he's done really well now since he's come into the team. A lot of injuries for Leinster out in the wide positions, but they're, we talk about them having, a great depth in their squad, and it's when guys like this come in and perform that you really see, the test of that. And I thought he had an excellent game tonight. They go close. We come back for a penalty, low taps and goes. They recycle then. Van der Fleer with a good carry. Then Doris goes to the line. We have a TMO check. He kind of juggled with the ball a little bit, moved from one hand to the other, but he did maintain control of the ball, and a try was awarded, and I think fairly as well, converted for 14 points to 0. Lockman then, who I thought started the game very well, he used to go off for blood. He had a big cut on his cheek, and it seemed to be open for most of the game as well. Leinster then find space on the outside. Low chips it on, but he can't gather the bouncing ball. It's one of those ones where it was down around his ankles, and it just wouldn't get that bounce to come up into his hands. Crowley, I thought, did well to get back there, but then he gets pinged, for holding on. It's a penalty. Leinster go to the corner. Munster, they're worried about, the maul drive. So actually go early, and Ryan doesn't even get back to earth. So penalty back to the corner. Munster then halts, what was a fairly ineffective maul from Leinster, but then I think it was Conan got out from there. And Munster, I think they did very well to stop that maul, but they probably committed a little bit too much there. And then we have great hands from Frawley, tempts one of the defenders to come shooting up, but his skills are just on point. Gets to Osborne, and then Osborne puts Keenan under the post, converted for 21 points to 0. And just superb hands from Leinster there. And that's one of the great things about them, is that when they click like that, it's just poetry in motion, and it was really, really brilliant to see. Munster then, they also lose Barron, so no hooker on the field for a few minutes, I think, until Scanlon came back on. There wasn't, any need for somebody else to throw into lineouts or to, uncontested scrums, because Scanlon did come back on, a minute or two later. We had things going from bad to worse, really, for Munster at that stage. Then, looking to open their account, they elect to kick for the post, but Frawley's kick strikes the post. Scannell now back on, so they do have a recognised hooker on the field. They then go to the corner from another penalty, and you feel like they need to get something here. Max Deegan then replaces Conan. Both benches being called upon early. This is about 20 minutes into the game or so at this stage. Obviously, Munster bearing the brunt of the injuries compared to Leinster in this one. But still, Conan, a big loss for Leinster. But Max Deegan, it's a strange one, right? Because you look at Conan in terms of the Ireland team, and you think like for such a great player, he finds it hard to get starts for Ireland. But then you've got somebody behind him like Deegan as well at Leinster, who then finds it hard to get starts because of him and Doris as well. But yeah, Deegan come on. I thought he had a very good game too. Munster then, with their first extended period into Leinster 22, Byrne carrying well, win another penalty, back to the corner. Ryan gets up and steals again for Leinster, kind of slapped down. Lowe gets to the loose ball first. Bit of a scramble there over the ball, but then they do manage to kick it clear. Farrell then breaks to get Munster back on the front foot again. I thought he was really good in that midfield. Then good interplay between Casey and Nankiville, and they're halted in the corner, but back we come for a penalty because Porter was off his feet at one of the breakdowns. Great play from Munster, and just equally good scramble from Leinster as well. Munster then working infield in the maul, 5 metres out, and They go to 1-out carries. They suck in the defence, and then they go to width. The pass from Nankivell beats the defence, finds Nash. He's gone over the try line, but the whistle goes before he grounds the ball. It was marginally forward. I'm looking at it, I would say it was forward, but I have to say, even though I'm a Leinster fan, I would not have complained if a try was given, because it was marginal. Looking at it, you would say, yeah, it's probably forward, but we've seen those tries given in the past as well. Munster's first choice front row then, back on for the scrum, but Leinster win a penalty and a clear. Porter getting the congratulations there. And it was a bit up and down for Porter really in the game, because they were talking about it in the commentary as well, just being that aggressive that sometimes you get rewarded for it and sometimes you get pinged for it, and he got a bit of both tonight. Munster then steal the Leinster line out, followed by then a pen for them in the scrum, and playing well now, but nothing to show for it yet either. Munster, that was really the difference I felt between the teams. Is Munster were playing well, but they weren't getting the points, whereas Leinster, they had that real purple patch and they scored 3 tries during it. Then we have half break from Crowley, followed by brilliant carry from Farrell. Real impact in the midfield from him. Then they go wide, and Gibson Park almost intercepts but knocks it on. Not deliberate. I think that's fair because he went for it with both hands. Another penalty at the scrum for Munster. Leinster kind of walking around, and again I thought that was a fair penalty. I thought the referee actually had a really good game this one. Then I'm sure there's always some fans that complain about the referee, but lovely move from Munster then. Klein claims it at the tail line out down to Coombs. He obviously attracts defenders because of his threat from 5 metres out, but he's basically just the dummy carrier. He pops it inside. Sean O'Brien coming on a predetermined line, and he goes over to score. Really well worked from Munster. Again, especially at that point where they've had chances in that Leinster 22 and things aren't working out for them. They executed that to a T. So well done to them for that. Conversion missed. It wasn't the toughest conversion in the world, but Crowley kind of scuffed it a little bit. So 21 points to 5 at that stage. Leinster then up the pace as we're kind of nearing the kind of half time. Decent carries from Doris and Bandafleer. O'Donoghue gets pinged for off feet, and Leinster can attack from a line out into 22. Nankivell, he gets over the ball, but he's in at the side, so Leinster tap and go from the penalty. Munster offside, and it's another penalty. Big moment of the game here. It feels like they go again, recycle a couple of times, they get close, and then Orgy Sneyman forces his way over to score the bonus point try against his old team. And at halftime then we're at 26 points to 5. Into the second half then, great steal from Byrne allows Munster to attack. He was a real threat at the breakdown. It's great to see him back to his best as well in there. They get it out to O'Brien. Beautiful steps to beat 2 Leinster players. Just beat them all ends up. Then makes good ground, but then fortunately he offloads looking for support, but he only finds Osborne, who covered back well for Leinster. Again, that Leinster scramble. Both teams then with periods of possession, but great defence from each of them as well in putting huge pressure on the attackers and forcing errors. And you can see as well for both teams, like we're 4 games in now, and the attacks are looking slicker, but the defence was just so good from both of them. Farrell then breaks deep into Leinster 22, great running lines and hands to set that up. He then finds Nankivell, who goes close. Again, brilliant scramble from Leinster. I think certainly Ringrose was involved in there, but not just him, a few others getting back as well. They forced him away from the try line, but then we come back for a 5-metre scrum to Munster because Ringrose, when he was in there, knocked the ball forward. Osborne then with a great hit as Munster were looking to spread it from that scrum, which was retreating as Leinster were putting pressure on. And then just after the Osborne hit, then Leinster drive over the ball and win a penalty. Then we have a lovely kick from Gibson Park over the top of the Munster defence and over the try line. Lowe is on the chase there. He's hunting it down and he's making great strides into it. But Haley just about wins the race to dot it down. Lowe definitely had it for pace, but Haley had enough of a head start to get there, and that determination as well to make sure that he wasn't beaten to the ball. Leinster then go through the phases from the dropout before Byrne once again over that ball wins a penalty, just like a limpet on the ball. And then Haley then wins another race to a kick. This time it's a grubber from Gavin Coombs, and he just leads a posse of Munster players at Leinster really caught out by that one. Great break from Murray in the build-up as well, and some really nice hands and interplay there. Crowley well involved in that as well. And then, as I said, Coombs with just that little sneaky kick in behind, and Haley was onto it like a flash. And he was first there, but there was 2 or 3 other Munster players who were gonna be there as well. It wasn't like there were tons of Leinster players getting back. Crowley converts that one for 26 points to 12. Leinster then it's their turn to win a penalty at the breakdown. Doris and Van der Fleur getting over the ball. I thought both of them had great games there. Winning lots of turnovers as well for Leinster. Doris then tells Ross Byrne to shoot for the post. Byrne wanted to kick to the corner, but Doris was thinking, well, if we get another 3 points, then it's 3 scores instead of 2 for Munster to come back. And then Byrne, he's just inside the Munster half, and probably a little bit beyond his normal range. The kick kind of dies at the end and drifts to the left and wide. Munster then lose John Ryan, and just not their night for injuries here, really. Another penalty to Leinster from a similar position. This time Frawley steps up. His kick does have the distance for it, but it hits the upright, and no score from Leinster since the first half, but they are running the clock down at this stage. And then Leinster do manage those last couple of minutes, even though Munster do turn the ball over. Everything's happening in the Munster half. Leinster get the ball back, get it off the field. 26 points to 12 is our final score. Let's have a quick look at the stats, and then we'll have a chat about the two teams as well. So let me pull the stats up here. Hopefully they're updated. They're not always on the official site, but it looks like they are. Okay, so tries, 4 tries to 2 for Leinster, and the Leinster tries all coming in that first half, and they really did need that kind of lead as well in that second half, because Munster came backing them really well. Possession then 53 to 47 to Leinster, so they kind of turned it around a little bit, because Munster I think had most of the possession in the first half. Clean breaks then 4 for Leinster, 6 for Munster, and you can see like defenders beaten as well. 13 for Leinster, 25 for Munster. So that Munster, especially their midfield, I thought did really well. Nankivell and Farrell looked like a really good unit. Last year they struggled, I felt, in the midfield, especially compared to the season before, where the midfield was just absolutely on fire. Now they seem to have another really good midfield pairing in there, and it really is paying dividends for them in terms of those breaks and defenders beaten, but they're not the only ones doing it. I thought Nash and O'Brien were really good. Crowley, not afraid to attack the line either. But that Leinster scramble, when they did get in behind, was a big difference as well. Offloads then 4 for Leinster, 11 for Munster. Kind of a mixed bag really for Munster in terms of those 11 offloads. Some of them were kind of just under pressure as Leinster were coming up and forcing them backwards. even though Munster were in possession, and there were just offloads to try and move the ball. And then other ones were just sublime ones that were putting players through gaps and stuff like that as well. So, yeah, as I said, a bit of a mixed bag. Onto defence then, territory 60% for Leinster, 40% for Munster. And, big part of that for Leinster was that kind of last quarter of the game where Munster had that foothold back in it now, and they needed another score just to give them the belief that maybe they could come back and get either like a draw or maybe even nick it if they could get another score on top of that. But Leinster managed it really well. I felt playing in the right areas of the field for most of that last quarter, and territory helped them a lot in that. Number of tackles then, 116 for Leinster, 121 for Munster. So very even, as I said. Both teams have periods of possession, and both teams doing pretty well in defence as well. Missed tackles, 24 for Leinster and 11 for Munster. So Munster with a better tackle percentage, 92 for them and 83 for Leinster. But again, that 83 is kind of where we saw Leinster last season, before the kind of the new defensive system. We've seen about higher this season, kind of in the higher 80s, but the scramble was just excellent from them. Turnovers 1 then, 5 for Leinster, 4 for Munster. Both teams doing really well to kind of to kill momentum, get over that ball, and then win those turnovers. Kicks retained then, just 1 kick retained in the whole game from Leinster. It wasn't really a big game for kicking in terms of up and unders and stuff like that. There was some kicks into space and kicks to kind of to force teams to potentially give a counter-attack opportunity. Then kick success, ignore it as usual. Penalties, 11 for Leinster, 12 for Munster. Very even on that score. And I didn't really feel like penalties had a big part to play in the game, because a lot of them were just from either those getting over the ball and winning those turnovers to kind of to stop attacks, or they were when the teams were down there in the red zone putting on the pressure. Anyway, let's talk about then some individual players. So successful carries, Caelan Doris with 8, another big shift for him. He really is playing so well for Leinster at the moment. Sean O'Brien with 7 for Munster. He's had a great start to his season as well. Clean breaks then, 2 for James Lowe. Didn't mention him all that much, but I thought he got his try, but also he gave Leinster some outs as well at times, when they needed it. Then Nankivell with 2 for Munster, and that we just look at defenders beaten next. So Hugo Keenan with 3 for Leinster, not too bad. Tom Farrell with 7 for Munster. So that Nankivell-Farrell partnership really is doing so well for Munster. Yes, they didn't win the game, but you can see they came so close to cracking Leinster at so many times, and this partnership is going to get better and better as well. I think they really are a good foil for each other as well. Next 10 meters made, James Lowe with 54 and Sean O'Brien with 96. So again, on the losing side, but O'Brien put in a brilliant display from him. Offloads then, 1 from Osborne and Tom Farrell with 3. So he's not just making those breaks, he's also trying to offload and find support as well. And that's what you want. You don't want somebody busting the line and then just hanging on to the ball and creating slow recycles, looking for support, trying to keep the move alive. And that's one of the reasons why I think he's going to be very successful in this Munster team, the way that they play. Onto defence then, number of tackles, Caelan Doris 17 and 12 for Stephen Archer. We didn't mention him much, but a big performance from him too. And he's a guy that he's one of those ones where he doesn't get as much recognition in terms of Ireland, etc., but he's still a hell of a player, and he's a hell of a worker too, and like to put in 12 tackles, especially when Munster early on had a lot of the ball as well. He was still, when Leinster did turn over, he was still putting in some big hits there. Himself and Lockman, I thought, were very physical at the start of the game. Caelan Doris, though, was 17, is brilliant. Turnovers 1 then, 2 for Doris and 2 for Byrne. Like we talked about Byrne being such a massive threat at the breakdown, and you could see at times Leinster were kind of double teaming on the clean out just to try and get him off that ball before the referee's whistle went, and then Doris as well, and for Leinster doing a similar job. Maybe Byrne is certainly more of a specialist at it, but Doris came up trumps for Leinster as well at times too. Okay, so that's the kind of individuals. Let's talk briefly about the teams. So first up, Munster. I thought they did well, like really well in that second half, and honestly, I felt their effort deserved a losing bonus point. I'm kind of even as a Leinster fan, I'm disappointed for Munster that they didn't get one. So many good performances from them as well. As I said, they came close to cracking Leinster open on a few occasions, but for that scramble defence from them. Big games from the likes of Haley, I thought was excellent, at fullback. Then O'Brien on the wing, as we saw. Nankivell and Farrell in midfield. Crowley, I thought, was decent as well, alongside Casey too. Then Murray, when he come on, that guy really has adapted again. Like all through his career, he's reinvented himself, to keep himself kind of current, and impact off the bench now from him is something that Munster can almost guarantee at this stage, because he's just adapted to not being a starter anymore. Byrne, as we talked about, Coombs as well, really good there. There's obviously other players too. I'm not going to name the whole team, but they're the ones that stood out to me. Maybe I missed a few, and if I did, apologies. But let's say another thing. Injuries definitely going to be a worry ahead of, they're going on their South African tour now. But even though they lost, one thing is that, those dark years of this being just a one-sided fixture, in favour of Leinster, well and truly behind us. It's gone back to being super competitive, and I'm so happy about that as well. Leinster then put in a massive shift in that first half, got the bonus point before the break. And for me, though, the key to winning was defence, and especially the scramble, because it gave them that cushion that they needed in the second half when Munster started coming back at them. Line-out defence was, very good as well, and a lot of kind of credit given to Snyman in the commentary, obviously, knowing how Munster set up for the lineouts, etc. Scrum, bit of a mixed bag, really. Certainly better than the other games for them this season. Thought they looked very slick in attack at times, especially once they got into that red zone. Doris and Van der Fleer, for me, were outstanding. Osborne in midfield, that guy, he's only 22, but he looks to the manner born for me. Frawley getting better and better the more time that he gets in a starting position. Furlong, probably his best game in a while in blue. And then Jameson Gibson Park, did that guy ever have bad games anymore? He just seems to be, top drawer every time. Let's talk about the game as well. Absolutely brilliant game. Credit to both teams for it as well. And, to that URC record crowd of over 80,000 that made it even more exciting. Ulster Connacht review, that's going to come tomorrow, because I'm not going to have time to watch the game live tonight. So I'm going to try and avoid the score, watch it tomorrow, and then do a review of the game as live tomorrow. And just to end then, let me know your thoughts on the game we just seen, and I'll see you guys on the next one.